So my grandfather was actually a sergeant major in the Marine Corps. So my mom's father, and I spent a lot of time there. My mom would drop me off at my grandparents' house at about like 7 a.m. I think we had kind of a rocky start because my mom got pregnant at 18 or 19 or whatever it was, and my grandparents had put a pretty hard no communication barrier up there for a little while. But at one point they became very involved in my life, and my mother would drop me off either before college. I know she went to Quincy College for 2 years to get her degree in respiratory therapy, but I certainly remember every day when she went to work, and she would work 12-hour days. So I would get dropped off in the morning, I would climb in my grandparents' bed with them, sleep for a little bit, the bus would come, they would pick me up from there and then drop me off.
And what was it like when you told them that you enlisted?
Crazy.
And when you graduated, that must have been even better.
Crazy. Paris Island with my grandfather.
Tell me about that.
Well, at Paris Island, they would say, do you have any VIPs that would be joining us for the graduation ceremony? And a VIP was anybody from an E7 up or an O3 and up. So a staff sergeant or above, or a captain or above, and my grandfather was a sergeant major who served with Chesty Puller. So pretty decent deal for the Marine Corps. They had a big welcoming for him. He was starting to have like a tougher time traveling and things like that, but he made it down. So we got to check out some of the museums on Paris Island. It was just crazy. I was 19. I was a 19-year-old sophomore, and the recruiter I'd been talking to since September 12th, 2001. I went in the day after September 11th and began the conversation. I ended up joining April 27th, 2004. And it was probably April 14th or April 20th or something like that. And he said, are you really not going to graduate? Because I was 19 and I was a sophomore, and I just kept on doing it over and over. He's like, dude, he was trying to make me stay in high school to finish. And he said, if you could just get your GED, I can get you in. It was hopeless at that point. Like, it was just, I dropped out. I took the GED the following day, finished in the top 98th percentile if anybody ever took it. And then I had to ship out the next week, like that. I had no idea what was going to happen. I knew that I was trying to get in the Marine Corps. Kind of put it on the back burner probably for a few months. And then he had reached out directly to me and just said, time to go, basically. And I had dropped everything I was doing. I told the school I'm leaving, took the GED the following day, shipped out the next week. It was just a very fast movement. I had a job at the time. I had to apologize for quitting, which, hindsight doesn't seem like that big of a deal. But when you have a job, like, it's a lot for you to digest that you're just quitting and you're not giving them 2 weeks. I'm leaving next week, and it wasn't a big deal. It was a grocery store job, but I've worked since I was 14. I've had my working papers since I was 14. I've never had a single period of unemployment. I have worked since the day I was 14 years old on. It was crazy, hectic, a lot of yelling, screaming, loud noises, a lot of stress. I mean, between wrestling, football, growing up poor, there's not much more you could have done to me worse. Been fighting since I was however old. I wasn't scared of much. The drill instructors certainly had given me perspective to respect them and fear their authority. And they did break me down and build me back up, but there were people that got broken down much harder. 2006, we went to Fallujah. We were right after the initial push. We were there when Zarqawi died. So Zarqawi was a top target. They bombed him when we were there. Ramadi was going absolutely crazy. I spent some time at an entry control point in the north part of the city searching vehicles between, I want to say it's Saclawea and Fallujah. And then I spent a fair amount of time at the train station running missions and operations out of there. Just a diverse exposure to different aspects of the functioning of occupying a city. The Marine Corps is not really set up to be an occupying force. The Army is supposed to. But we ended up occupying.
What was it like to be there when that was all going on?
You can't be scared for that long. You just can't. It doesn't work. Think of the scariest thing that you could ever imagine doing from your life being threatened standpoint. Like, just you're entering a situation. If I drop you in a cage with a tiger, and you know it's inevitable that this tiger's going to do something terrible for you, and a couple days goes by, will you be scared for a few more days, or eventually will you repress? And that's essentially the way I feel about it. At a certain point, you know that death is imminent, but you got to either fight or you got to just lay down and give up. So I do remember being emotional just before going, because it was starting to become very tangible, very real. It wasn't a game. I realized that. I had questioned whether I knew what I had got myself into. But when you get there, you can't be that scared for that long. A day. You find this version of yourself that you never... I guess that's a big part of my foundation. Everything I ever thought was impossible was proven wrong about what I could do from a capability standpoint. Everything that I ever thought would be physically or emotionally, or are you that guy? You ever look at somebody and you're like, oh, how did they do all that? Well, I can do all that too. Like, in every way, whether it's mental, physical, just an emotional challenge, I can field it just as well as anybody else could, because I'm just as capable as anybody else that wakes up and puts their own 2 feet on the ground, no matter what it is. Had a tough adjusting time when I first got home, like a lot of people do. I will say that I got private help as opposed to just going through the VA. I thought that was a huge help. If you want to get help, you can. If you don't, you won't. So there's people that are just trying to go through the system, milk the system, without actually trying to fix any of the problems. For me, it was really important for me to tackle those, because you can have results or excuses, but you can't have both. So I don't think that anybody would, the VA would care, my check would be bigger, but nobody really cares about what your actual problems are. So, I didn't need to be a victim. So I tried to figure out how to deal with it as well as I could. I don't sleep still. There's plenty of lingering effects. But yeah, it was a pretty big adjustment going from a significant job to a very insignificant job pretty quickly. If a customer gets angry at you at the deli, you just want to be like, do you know who or what I've done? Do you have any idea where I've been?
How did you get from there to here? And
I'll give you my synopsis as well as I possibly can. I grew up poor. I think I'm gifted. I think I was under-challenged. I think I got bored in school. I think that I rebelled because I was bored, and I think I tried to find things to occupy my time. I think I occupied some of my time with the wrong things, whether it could be trouble, skipping school, fighting, you name other expletives or bad situations. Here, I did it. I didn't know my dad growing up. My mom had dated other people, so I had a couple different father figures. I had a nice tribe of males in my life. I had a very close friend of my mom's, Biff, or Rick Loud. My uncles, I got 3 uncles. I got a grandfather. Round robin. Like, who's taking me camping? Who's taking me to a baseball game? Who's going to teach me how to hit a ball? That kind of stuff. So I had some exposure there. And then middle school came, I got in a lot of trouble. High school came, it was a lot of trouble. I knew that I wanted to be a Marine. My grandfather had ended up on his deathbed at one point, and I told him, I'm joining. He didn't die. I had to join anyways. 19 years old, I go in the Marine Corps. I have the ability to truly be challenged beyond what I can achieve. Be given something that is not possible for me to just decide I'm going to do. So I had to put in the work. I had to grind to get there. And I did. I went from doing, I remember even from like a physical standpoint, I think I was doing 6 pull-ups, and I could run 3 miles in like 27 minutes. I got out, I could do 30, and I could run 3 miles in 18. So I was pretty physically fit at the end of it. Having seen that accomplishment, I was very, very motivated. I went to war. I came home from war. I ended up at a meaningless job. I had a couple girlfriends, and then I ended up getting my wife today pregnant. I had gotten out in like 2008, roughly, and I wanted to be a firefighter. So I took the physical and written test for civil service. I got a perfect score on the physical, perfect score on the written. I had established residency in Boston, and I was a disabled veteran in Boston. I was number one on the list for Boston Fire. The economy tanked in 2008, so I went to Northeastern to get my EMT, which is where I met my wife now. She was going for the same reason. She was a pre-med student, just taking EMT just because she likes school for no reason. And after getting all of these things set up for me to be a firefighter, 2008, they announced a hiring freeze on Boston Fire. So we now have a kid on the way, and I'm working full-time at a deli. So we were living in Jamaica Plain, and I had gotten an OUI. So now my wife is transporting me back and forth to Hingham to go to a deli job to make $13.50 an hour. You know, I mean, just working really, really hard, and I knew it wasn't going to cut it. And then the firefighting freeze came, and I got this kid coming, and I got no work, like nothing substantial. So I went to the bank across the street, and it was Sovereign Bank at the time. I talked to the branch manager. That friends with everybody thing is a thing. If you followed me around in Hingham in 2007, I could not go somewhere without somebody being, "Hi, Kevin," whether it's a dry cleaner, a deli, sub shop, the bank. Everybody knew me. Everybody. It's been my one kind of thing that's always been there. You know, people might roll their eyes when they say my name, but they smile and they know who I am because I make myself available, and I'm always a very talkative person. So the branch manager at Sovereign said, "I think I can get you a job." So I applied to be a teller. And because I didn't have enough cash handling experience, they said that I couldn't get a job as a teller, but they thought I'd be a great person at a desk. So they put me on the desk, and I became a personal banker. I very quickly became the number one banker there. And my goals were $100,000 a quarter in home equities, $100,000 in investments, 15 business checking accounts, and I think 20 personal checking accounts. I did $1 million in home equities, which was 10 times the goal. I did $1 million in investments a quarter, 10 times my goal. I did 55 personal checking accounts a quarter, and I did about 26 business checking accounts a quarter. So I was ridiculously talented at sales. And this was my first time ever seeing it. And we were living with my wife's mother at that time, mother and father, because we had left Jamaica Plain. After all the commuting, the baby coming on the way, we needed to hunker down and figure it out. So I had paid rent there. I mowed the lawn as well. I did a couple things to make sure that it was okay. And I used to come home, her mom or dad or brother was there. I'm like, I got 3 checking accounts today. And it mattered to me. It mattered. It was just a checking account, but like for me, it was a metric where I could measure success. It was the first time that I could say, all right. And it was the first time I was stack ranked based on number of production against other folks. And I don't like number 2. So after doing that kind of production there, I had built a pretty good relationship with a rep at ADP who works as a partner for the bank, which is a payroll company. So they partner with us. And I never really referred to much business, but he said, you ought to consider coming over here. I just had enough of the job I was doing. My highest commission payout for a quarter was $427. I made 36 grand in my best year there. So I was there for 18 months, so my best year was not multiple years. He thought that would be a good idea. I went through the interview process, and we figured out that it was a college-only job. So I was very nervous, but he said, we'll figure it out. Your numbers speak for themselves. We'll get you over here. They ended up getting me a waiver for my ability to join. So I got the job at ADP. And after all this talk and all the success of all my successes through sales, they had decided that I should have a higher quota because they brought me over as a salesperson, and everybody else they're hiring was fresh out of college. So I worked my absolute hardest. My first territory was in Foxborough, Massachusetts. I killed myself, and I missed. And I didn't hit my quota. I didn't even hit the minimum expectation. I missed by about $4,000. Had I had a normal number to start with, I would have hit it, right? But I didn't, and it was the first time in my life that I can say I tried my hardest and failed. Seriously. And it was brutal. The following 2 years at ADP, I decided that I don't know whether I decided it consciously or subconsciously, that I was not going to work that hard anymore and fail. So I started working 20 hours a week for 2 years straight. And on a quota of 135, I sold 136. On a quota of 155, I sold 155 and a half. So I barely squeaked by, but it was easier for me to emotionally check out and say, well, I'm just doing that because I don't work that hard. But what I was doing was barricading my emotions and making sure that I couldn't try so hard and fail again. Year 4 came around. I was having the best year I ever had there. And I just had enough of kind of being average. And I went to a bunch of different networking groups in the town of Plymouth, where we are today. And I told people 6 months into my year, there's this trip that ADP does every year. It's called President's Club. It's the biggest deal in the world. This year, it's in Barcelona. I'm having the best year of my career, and I've got 6 months left. And the great news is I'm having the best year of my career. The not so great news is if I double the back half onto the front half, I'm still going to miss by 40%. So something's got to give. I need your help. So I joined a BNI, I joined the Chamber of Commerce, I joined a ton of different networking opportunities and started just really ingraining myself with the people. Not just the customers. I wasn't calling customers directly. I was working with politicians, other entrepreneurs, people that could give me guidance, bankers, lawyers, people that could help me make connections. And I coined the phrase, no pain, no Spain. So we ended up getting a pretty big cult following here in the town. Everywhere I would go, I would say, my name is Kevin Hennessey, no pain, and the room would go, no Spain. That year I made it. I made it to Spain. I ended up in the top 5% of the company nationally. They flew my fiance at the time and myself to Rome for us to get married first. And then we honeymooned in Barcelona for 2 weeks on ADP's dime. It's very nice. And then I just became a perennial top producing rep. I didn't have excuses. I would work 80-hour work weeks, whatever. I built that work ethic. The guy upstairs was Scott that you met, who owns Brabo Benefits today, the president of Brabo overall. And he and I were partners. I would refer him my clients that I do payroll for him to do health insurance for. And we built an amazing rapport. And eventually ADP got into the health insurance business when they never had before. And he was my health insurance partner. So I was giving him all of my health insurance business. My employer got into that business. So I told them when they asked me if I would be willing to take the test that I didn't want to because I had a strong partnership with the broker and there's no point. Because I would rather refer him that business and take my payroll because our back and forth was really helping both of us. So I didn't have an interest in becoming the broker for ADP. 3 reps that they put through the testing failed and they needed somebody. So they came knocking again, and they said, we really need you to take this test. Nobody else can pass it. And it's not a crazy hard test. It's a basic. You got to study. You got to study for, a few really hard nights. I took it. I passed it. It was fine. And I got my license, and I killed it. So I stopped referring to him quite as much. I didn't refer to him at all, which stunk. But we stayed so close. And he had always tried getting me to come over. And he's like, come on, please, you got to work with me. And I'm like, I don't know. I've got this great thing worked out. I'm making great money at ADP. I don't want to forfeit that to go work and schlep around health insurance. I didn't understand. I got my license in February. The year ended in June, fiscal year, so 4 months. In 4 months of production, I finished in 4th place out of 126 brokers nationwide for dollars, not trend. Dollars, closed business. So if you had trended what I was doing, I would have tripled 1st place. So I had a calling there. I'm like, holy crap, this health insurance stuff is awesome. So I sat with Scott and he says, well, what did you sell? I said, 85 grand. And he goes, what do you get paid on? I was like, I got $10,000. I was psyched. And he's like, how much do you think you make out here? I go, I don't know. He said, 85 grand a year, for 4 months of work. And I was like, okay. Well, let's talk. So then I had gone through a process where I wanted to join him, and the agreement that we had was to buy a book of business from him for $150K. I was making mid-hundreds. I was making $130, $140. I had, every piece of overhead that you could have, whether I had a Range Rover, I have a big home, my kid goes to private school. Every bit of obligation that you could ever have in your life, I had. And so I started applying for this loan in March. It was $150,000 for basically what would net out as $7,500 a month in salary. In theory, just to try and dumb things down a little bit. It was a little bit more substantial of a money movement thing there, but I pay $150,000. I basically get $7,500 a month to live on. That's what that symbolized. And from March until September, we were going through the loan, and it was, you're closing tomorrow, we're closing next week, we're closing tomorrow, we have everything we need from the bank. And then on the Thursday before Labor Day of not this past Labor Day, but the one before, I got a call from the bank that they got bought out by another bank, and I wasn't going to get the loan. I woke up the Tuesday after Labor Day to get back to work, and I couldn't do it. I picked up the phone, I called, and I quit. I called Scott. I said, I have no job. I have no money. We gotta figure this out. So, this is a year later. Killed it.
What separates you from your competition?
I work harder. I work so hard I would make a normal person puke. I work 18 hours a day. Yeah, 8 employees, contractors, people who really are just trying to run their business and not be bothered with the details. Somebody that needs help and they know that they need help. Somebody that wants to be treated really well. Somebody that needs somebody to actually guide them, not just a vendor. The people that hire me are people that care. In the industry, it's all about price, how low your price is. We have a non-negotiable price, and we're in the top 3/4 price-wise in the market. When you come to us, you get a lot for that money, though. So when somebody is uncompromising on the service that they receive, they should come to me. If they are trying to just shave their pennies, then they can call any other company out there, because it just, for us, I'll give you an example. One of my competitors might send out an email in November to let you know that minimum wage is going to go up in January. When you log in on the first week of January to process payroll for all your employees, the system would allow them to pay their employees below minimum wage. And if the employer were to call that payroll vendor and say, why did you let me pay my employees below minimum wage? Oh, sir or ma'am, we sent you an email in November. No. We have 100 clients today. We pick up the phone, we call 100 clients. And we say, I notice you have 3 employees that are going to be paid below minimum wage. Would it be appropriate for me to update that for you? That's the difference. We don't send an email in November and expect you to remember it. Small business owners and business owners of almost any level have so many things that they're juggling as it is. It's a challenge, and they need help. And when they need help, they just need somebody to make sure that somebody has their back. But I mean, there's a million different things we do. We do payroll, we do benefits, and we do HR. So we have a full-time in-house HR generalist. We go through people's policies, procedures, their employee orientation packets, their OSHA guides, their safety trainings. We make sure that people know what benefits are available at work. We also figure out what their challenges are. If their challenges are recruitment, if their challenges are retaining employees, if their challenges are related to management, getting the production out of their employees that they want to, or building a corporate culture, being a great place to work. You know, at our company, you show up to work on Monday at 10 a.m. because weekends are hard. We do yoga every Thursday morning. It's optional. So, you know, a lot of people there's 2 different people, I guess, in this world. Some of them are complaining about how bad millennials are, and the other people are trying to figure out how to work with them. We're on the second side of it. We're trying to figure out how to engage and make it a place that people would want to work at for good. I was born for this. I was born to connect with people, period, and that's my strongest thing.